pictures off the net. My name is Rose Momsen, so this is Ancestry. We can go forward. And you'll see they're artistic versions of family trees, so I've just thrown them in for entertainment. I don't have permission to use them, they're just off the internet. Go to the next one. So this is what you see when you go to the Ancestry.com Library Edition website. And you can do it on a laptop here on the Wi-Fi around this building.
And so you can't do it from home?
You cannot do it from your home. When you go onto the digital services page on wcls.org, there are two choices. One is Ancestry and one is called Heritage Quest. And Heritage Quest you can do from home. You just need your barcode, and there are lots of access to databases, census records, all kinds of things through Heritage Quest. So you could actually get as much information as you could on your family tree through that resource, which is available to everyone from their home computers. At some point, you'll want to come into the library and either sit in the building on your own laptop or work on one of the library computers here or work on our laptop here. And then access the Ancestry Library Edition. Can you flip to the next one? So what happens is that you look at this page and way up in the right-hand corner of the page, it says Whatcom County Library. And flip again. Ancestry.com is big. So the library is paying for this. A one-lane little pathway, flip it. And Ancestry.com looks like that. It's an 8-lane freeway. So you're meandering around, poking around, looking up your family tree, and you head off to the right, and you're suddenly away from the census, you're into, I was trying to find, I think, Pennsylvania school records or something. Come on in. And I was in an area where it no longer had, can you flip backwards if I go? Where it no longer had that Whatcom County, keep going, one more. Where it no longer had Whatcom County Library up in the right-hand corner. So that is the trick about Ancestry Library Edition here, is you can mine the access you get through the library. There's a great deal of information on it that is free through our subscription, but at some point, why don't you flip ahead a couple, I think you'll see it. You get this page, which says, oh, think of what you could find if only you will pay this much. So this is what you'll see when you head off of the one-lane road. It says, we will give it to you for so much for 6 months. This one, start your free trial. If you're willing to sit down and you're ready to do a great deal of research all at once, it's certainly worth getting a 14-day trial. And if you get interested in genealogy as a hobby, it's totally worth the money to do, because there's so much extra depth and kinds of records to get to. So I can talk a little bit about that today. Mostly, I'm showing you what you can do on the library's one-lane road. I got a lot done with my family tree just on that. And you can send the documents home. You find the census record, you send it home. You find a birth record, a death record, whatever it is, you mail the documents home to yourself, where you can then open it up and look carefully at the information and do more in-depth study, say, of who the neighbors were on the census next to where your family lived, or things like that. Go ahead and go for it. So I'm just going to sort of talk a little bit to start off with what you see. Across the top is a menu bar that says search, message boards, learning center, charts and forms, the different new collections that have come into Ancestry. They're constantly finding databases from other countries, other places in the US, and pulling it into their access. I think if we go forward, you're going to see what's just below. So this is on the home page, how to search the census, how to go to the vital records like death records and birth records, and there's quick links also down here that says the same thing. Public trees, things like that. Some things, when you click on it, you'll go to it, and some things you'll be heading off of the one-lane road. So go ahead and go forward. So that's what I've highlighted in red on green, the kinds of information that you can find. There's military records, There's probate records from wills. Certain personal things are harder to find. They want you to be a member of Ancestry to access people's personal family trees, or maybe sets of photographs. So sometimes you can get to those things, and sometimes they're harder to find. On the right is the different years of the census records that are available. As they just, I think fairly recently, let loose the 1940 records. There has to be a certain length of time before they let loose, and since they're every 10 years, that takes you another 10 years to get to those records. So if we go forward, this is what a search page looks like if you're looking for a birth certificate or a marriage or death certificate. There's also just sort of a blank search page where it will bring up anything they can find. Go ahead and go forward. Can you push the button? Oh, to wills. Okay, so that was wills, probate. They all look very similar. And in these particular fields, it's helpful if you actually have a death date, a birth date, some information. The basic fields let you be a lot looser. Look up anybody that had a name that sort of sounds like this who was born between this date and that date. And you'll get lots of records that have nothing to do with you, but you might be able to hit the record you're looking for and get some more of the important dates. If we do the next one, you'll see also how to look up something in a city directory. I was able to find my dad's cousin's name in a city directory and track it over a period of years and say, oh look, they lived on the same street, and then they moved across the street, and then they moved to the street down the road. I could start to see the pattern of somebody's life over time. I was interested in my dad's cousin's information because I'm trying to think what she'd be, a great aunt. Her birth records led me to my grandfather's birthplace, where I couldn't find it through his records, but I could find it through her records. So sometimes it's helpful too to spread out what you're looking for. But in the beginning, you just start with the easiest thing that you have, which is usually information on your grandparents. Okay, go ahead and go forward. So this is under research aids. I think these are still all under that first page. And when you click, keep going, the next one. So these are some of the places where it talks to you. These little, like it says census records, 10 census tips. These are sort of very short guidelines that Ancestry has put out for information for you to up how quickly what you learn how to do on Ancestry. Getting started, I would definitely go through all the getting started. Ancestry is keen for everybody to do DNA because the more DNA information they get, the broader and broader their results become. So periodically, as you send your documents home, you have to hand them an email. So they in turn start to give you Ancestry. Don't you want your DNA? Here's a deal. Buy DNA on it. Go next. These are some more immigration, military, ethnic. There are also places where it's just telling you how to find your Swedish ancestors, what you're looking for. Here's how to find your family tree in the American Revolution. If any of these areas are something that you think would be interesting to you, I would definitely say it's worth the read. It's usually just one short page of things. You can also go to YouTube. There's a lot on YouTube. I think it's coming up, YouTube. Oh, so this is talking about cemeteries, not yet. They actually have on almost every one of my ancestors, there was some kind of a cemetery registration where it told you where the person was buried, and sometimes there was a photograph of the tombstone. And a lot of times there would be death records for the state that would have better names or better dates. I found one relative and she had changed her age as she got older, she kept getting 10 years younger through the end of her life. So by the time it got to her real death paperwork, it actually had the real date that I could find birth paperwork. But from all those other ages, they didn't match any birth paperwork. They also have research guides specific to certain areas. And if you know, like I have relatives that are from Ohio, I could read a bit about the history of Ohio, and it will start to make more sense of what my family was doing to get to Ohio or what was happening with them. Keep going. Okay, so YouTube has the best selection of Ancestry videos. And they put out these 5-minute videos so that if you have a spare 5 minutes, you can learn a little bit about one thing on Ancestry.com. And these you can access from home. So you're able to see what you're going to want to do, take notes, kind of see what it looks like, and then when you come to the library and sit down and you bring up data, you've seen it before. You recognize what the page looks like, you know where to click. So I found these really helpful. I looked through, one of these here says how to find your pre-1850 ancestors. I'm not ready to go that far back yet. But there's levels of information. There's also longer programs that are about half an hour long that you can read about how to look up your Native American ancestors, or just longer topics that have more information and more access that's outside of what Ancestry has or does. So go ahead and come on in. So there is, under on the top, you've got charts and forms. They give you blanks for a number of different kind of charts. Do you want a chair? Have a chair. So I do have hard copies of a lot of these blank forms. The Ancestral Chart is like a family tree, a research calendar so you can keep track of what you were looking up on one day. It's a good habit to get into, to write everything down. And it's an even better habit to get into, to go home and take the information that you've pulled from your time at the library and put it into something, because all I have managed to do is shove it in a bag. So I brought my bag. It's just all in this one bag, but I haven't got it anywhere else. They have a correspondence record if you're looking. Some people are looking to find family. Some people are looking to corroborate family stories. Some people are looking for proof that they have a certain percentage of Hawaiian blood or a certain percentage of Indian blood. So everybody's got a reason that they're interested in digging around in the records. Some of it is entertaining, and some of it's bizarre. I looked up my great-grandfather's name, and I wound up getting, his name was Veter, with a V. He was Welsh. And I wound up getting a record for a Thomas Leiter. And I read through on the census, and I could see that the wife's name was right, and the children's name were right, the last name is wrong. And I'm looking through, and it says what he did, and he had worked in the mines, he was retired. And there's a French thing, and it says in French, apple pruner. And I realized, whoever was being the census person that day showed up at the door and said, "What's your name?" And he said, "Thomas Leiter," and he just wrote down Leiter. And he said, "What were you doing?" He said, "Oh, I was out pruning the apple tree." He goes, "Apple pruner," So the person who was taking the records didn't always write them down well. So you need to corroborate over a period of time on census records repeatedly to get the best information, the best spelling of names, things like that. So there's a chart. It's very basic, born, place, married, whatever, all of the basic information. You can do a lot of researching just with a year, and you can actually tell it to give you 3 or 4 years around the year you're looking for, which helps when records are sort of gray. You could do it that. Next one. I like this form. I thought this was very nice. It's a half circle. I found this on the internet. So this is another way of writing down. You're not going to get as much information, but you get a clearer picture of the spreading out of your relatives. So that's another type of family tree. There's a fancier one like this later. And then I'm on a Mac. So the program we use on a Mac is called iFamily. And it's out of Australia, and that's what it looks like. So this is actually my family tree. And one of the nice things about this particular program is it gives you a slot for adopted parents or step-parents. So that also messes up your nice, neat family tree as you veer off into step-parents and adopted family and second wives and all of that. So this one just goes back to my level of grandparents. At this point, I can go back one more step on one side, and I've hit other people in Ancestry who had gone much further back on my mother's side, or no, on my father's mother's side. So anyway, so I was interested in corroborating family stories, and I was calling this batting 500 because I had half a success. out of 2 stories, I was able to sort of figure out one, but not the other. So we'll go forward. So I think I'm walking you through a search. You click, here's the basic search you're going to get. First name, last name, where they might have lived, and a birth year for them. Hit the thing. And you get, this is called a card catalog. So this is another place where it's showing you a way to look up searchable records. If you know that you're looking for family trees or you're looking for census records. Click through again. How to filter by, just like Amazon on the side, there's filters that at certain points you get more comfortable on the website, you can more quickly get to where you want to go. This particular one is giving you the basic ones. I've really mostly only used the top few: census records, birth and death, military records, and the immigration. They'll show you the actual signed passenger list from these boats that came across from Europe. This one also says that they have newspaper and publications, pictures, other people's stories and maps, church directories, schools, wills, probates, different almanacs, things like that. Go ahead and flip it. And they also have yearbooks. You could find different kinds of school yearbooks. You might be able to find your family tree in the yearbook. You can filter by location. There are over 1,000 different databases to look at from Canada, Europe, USA, and North America. There's fewer for Australia, Oceania, Mexico, but there definitely are databases throughout the world. So if you have relatives that come from Africa or Asia, there's something for you to find on Ancestry to pull out of there. Keep going. You could also filter by dates. This one's going all the way back to the 1600s. I've looked at some of the records from the late 1780s, and the handwriting is really difficult to read because it's very ornate and done with a quill or a pen. So I would expect they get more and more complicated and sparser as you go back. We were talking earlier that there are also places where entire bodies of records are gone because there was a war and things were burned up, or records were destroyed or lost in a fire. So you'll hit some of those as well in your research. Keep going. Here's another beautiful family tree, much simpler, obviously. Keep going. Okay, so here's my stories. Now, before I start, is there any specific questions that you have that you would like me to cover? Or we'll go over it again. We've got an hour, so. Okay. No sit? You're happy to stand?
I'm good.
Okay. So my birth father's mother is Welsh, and her parents are Welsh, and she was 3 when she came over to this country. And it was harder to find information about her sometimes. Sometimes I had to search for her older sister or her younger sister to get information that was going to pertain to all the girls in that family. After I looked for my grandmother Doris Triken, I looked for her sisters, Phoebe, her sister Elsie, different people in the line. And they're from Wales. It turns out now, having looked on Ancestry.com, they were English actually, but they left from Wales, and they were at least 1 or 2 generations in Wales. But if you keep going back, they all had come from England. And I expect that section where Wales and England meets, there's a lot of movement back and forth of peoples having to do with the availability of work, is my guess. So go ahead and go. And I typed in her name, Doris Wieder, and I think she died. And I got this book and her eyeglasses and a watch, I think. And it really didn't say much. My dad had put in a couple of pictures, and it just had somebody from the funeral home who had typed in her name and everything. And I think it said something, that says where she's from, and it just said Wales. It's like, okay, Wales is pretty big there, She's not from a particular place. So I wanted to know a little bit more about my grandmother, thinking I might like to go to Wales, where my grandparents are from. You can actually get a passport if you have a grandparent who lived in the UK. So if I wanted to pursue that, I could. But I didn't worry about it. Go ahead and go. And her mom, Doris Vider's mom's name was Fanny Webb, and they were from Scranton, Pennsylvania. So in the process of looking up things, I think we're going to hit different kinds of data. So I was able to start fairly easily going backwards. It turns out Fanny is a nickname for a lot of names, and there were many Fanny Webbs, so it was not always easy to find the Fanny Webb that I was trying to find. So I did have a whole day where I spent time getting all excited about a Fanny Webb that I was not related to. So you might have that sort of thing happen. It happens. You don't worry about it. So go ahead and go forward. This list, I'm showing you the long page of what you see. So flip back just one. So it said the first thing you saw was a death certificate. So she's born in 1865 and she died in 1942. So go forward. But her name is on a passenger list, and there are some Fanny Webbs that are in Ohio, which I don't think I actually. Yes. So then we get into different Fanny Webbs: 1868, 1862, 1867. So you had to look through all these different Fanny Webbs to see if they might be your Fanny Webb. Look forward. So this is Thomas Veeder. My grandmother is Doris. I'm just going to lean over there. And it says she's a daughter. She Welsh, what they speak, where they went to school, things like that. And under my my great-grandfather's name, it says that he is a supervisor, he's a coal miner, and his eldest son is a driver, coal miner, because Scranton, Pennsylvania was a big coal mining area. And that's a lot of what was drawn out of that area of Wales also. So flip forward, that's a census record. So then here's where you see the button, send your fine home. You click the button. It says what email, you click that button, and that entire document, just the image of it, is what goes to your house, where you can blow it up and look at it, print it off, see more detail from it. Yes?
I want to know what year was Fanny Webb census? Like, when did you find, what year was this on taken?
This would have been last year, I think. You mean when I got it?
No. When you, on that big sheet of paper where her name was.
Flip backwards. So
I want to know when was that census taken?
Okay, so this is for my grandmother, Doris Veeder, Fanny Webb's daughter, and this was the 1910 federal census.
Right.
So Fanny Webb did live in Scranton, and she's going to be on one of these censuses, but not under Veeder, under Webb. This tells you the street, the house number of where it is. I'm trying to see what it says, but I can't see. What you learn to do after your initial experience reading a census is you go back and you start to look at their neighbors. Because sometimes, particularly if it's a rural, a farm, like you had somebody on a farm, you'll find that they married somebody on a farm just down the road on the same census. And so then you're also able to track out a little bit picture of what was going on for those families in your world. Okay, go ahead, go forward. So some of these are mixed up a bit. This story, we're going to come to the picture that goes with my story. Can you go forward one more? So this was Fanny, this is my Fanny Veeder, she's being called on this one. Her name would have been Webb, but her full name, her birth name would have been Fanny. So Fanny Webb married Thomas Veeder, so she's a Veeder, right? So that's my great-grandmother. So that's what a death record looks like. And it says that she died of organic heart disease. And down at the bottom, I looked to see the name of who had found her. I was like, oh, that's my cousin's mom. I was like, oh, I know, Dot. I know her. She's in Florida right now in a nursing home. But it's like you could recognize that she'd come by to see the old lady. This is interesting because it tells you what the name and of her parents are. So this is a way where I could get, here's George Webb and Eliza Bishop. So then I start looking for Eliza Bishop. I was tracking a family story that my grandmother told my dad that one of the great-great-grandmothers we had 16 pregnancies, of whom 11 children lived. So I didn't know who that might be, and I was interested. And then they told me that whatever number great-grandmother and her husband came home drunk one night from the pub and beat her up. And so she recovered, and then some other point later, I don't know how many years or months it might have been, he came home drunk from the pub, and he was going to beat her up, and she put a big kitchen knife in his stomach and sent him to the hospital. And he never touched her again after that story. So I was like, wow, this is a great story. This is a story that's made it down through all the women in my family to tell to the next woman.
But not on the death certificates.
Well, and I had said to George, couldn't I look this up in a newspaper? My husband, George. And he said, nobody's going to print that in a newspaper, Rose. So, flip forward. So they were from Wales. And I don't think they were in the beautiful, mountainy part of Wales, flip forward. But she had a lot of kids, right? This is the old lady in the shoe. So it was like I decided to try and find somebody in the family line that matched that pattern of a whole lot of kids to see if that part of the story was real. So go ahead and flip forward. So there's the kitchen. I can just see her in the kitchen and reaching around with that knife and poking him in the stomach. He lived, obviously. So keep going. So I eventually connect with Eliza Bishop. And as is very common, the names are sort of the same. There's an Eliza Bishop who is the daughter of Eliza Bishop, whose mother is named Eliza Bishop. So it was a little tricky as we're getting back into these categories. The spouse is George Webb, so it's like, okay, this is a right Eliza Bishop. We got George Webb. The timing's about right. She's born in 1829 and she dies in 1888. She's from Gloucestershire, but she dies in Wales, and Monmouth is where a lot of these records that I saw from my grandmother's sisters were from. And so they give you a different Eliza Webb below in the records, matching records, Eliza Bishop. So I was interested to try and find like a family tree or something. Can you flip to the next one? So here she is, and it has even more detail on this one. But if you'll look up on the left part of the screen, you see that this is a record of someone else's ancestry page. This is from the Boyette family. So they are also related to Eliza Bishop. And underneath we now have a new source that says Ancestry Family Tree. I'm still in Whatcom County Library. I can see, oh, here's Eliza Bishop's parents. Now I have the names of her parents. I'm being able to take I'm going backwards, and I'm being able to pull the data from someone else's research as it starts to match mine. But the first time that I tried, could you advance it? Tried to click on the ancestry tree, that's what I saw was, here, join this membership. And can you go forward again? So what happens when they have your email is that every holiday, Ancestry sends you free access. So different things become available depending what kind of holiday it is. The military holidays, you tend to get military records. Some of the other holidays, other family records open up. And I must have sat down in one of these times when there was a wider access to get into Ancestry. Can you flip forward? Oops, sorry. Because there are eventually, I got access into the family tree that I was looking for. So I know there's a July 4th opening. There was, can you keep flipping forward?
Yeah.
Whatever date this was, so Labor Day, they let you into a lot of the will records, like to look at people's things. Keep going. So I was able to get into Eliza Bishop. So if you go forward, what you see is, one more. Oh. So you start to see how many kids there were. Okay, here's George and Fred and Dinah and Louis and Fanny, and and every one of these is another link to a page with details about that link to the family. Eventually, flip forward. And these are the different family trees. She's on the Kelly family tree, the Boyette family tree, all these different family trees. Do one more. And one more again. This one. So eventually you came to a chart that looks like this, where I could look up above and see, I can't put my glasses on, but you can see George and Eliza. And then you could see the long line of their kids. And it did, it matched. It's hard for me to see up there, but I believe it's the second line. George and Eliza are on the second line down, and that third line is all these surviving kids. So I was like, okay, look, I found the lady with all the kids. She's probably the one about whom this story was told. So I felt pretty happy. I did lean on someone else's research. So you want to go in and look at each one of those little blocks as a link to a page about that particular person, write down their birth dates, their death dates, yes.
Yeah, I don't understand, that's really stupid, but so this Eliza,
Yes.
this person, that family, had done some research and plunked all this in for you.
Yeah, so the Boyette family, see if I can find it. The Boyette family the Boyette family is related to Fannie Webb's sister Dinah. So they found the family information and kept going back. So we are both related to George and Eliza Bishop, but the next generation down, or beyond that, they're related to these people, and I'm related to a different one of the sisters or brothers that are in there. So it just depends how, like you were saying earlier, we're probably all related to each other. If you keep going far enough back, you'll cross somebody. It means we're all cousins at some point. So I thought, okay, that's a successful story. I felt that I'd gone far enough. I'm not ready to be able to find anything about the knife in my great-great-great-grandfather's stomach. Oh well, glad he lived. Though those people had children who then, it was my Thomas Veeder and his wife Fannie Webb who came across from Wales. So this is the generation that had moved to Wales, from England. So I had a second story I was trying to look up, for which I really just bombed out. I didn't have any luck. We're going to talk about that. Oh, so here's another one of those half-circle family trees, much fancier, with little trees drawn in there. But I just thought it was really beautiful. If you were going to give somebody a gift, this is a much fancier, frameable gift than on a piece of paper, chunk, all the information. If you're a genealogist, you'd really rather just have the information and not the art. Okay. So on my mother's side of the family, there is a story about a great-great-grandmother who was an Indian. Captain Billy Fisher's wife was an Indian. No name, no tribe, no information at all. And that's all I knew growing up, that there was an Indian in the family. In looking back, doing some research, there were a number of Native women, all in that 1838, 1830 sort of period where you're just about to go into the Trail of Tears, that married out, got married into other groups. So I think that the Native people were seeing the writing on the wall and trying to merge their kids into safer situations that hopefully they would survive. My husband has a female Native relation about the same time period in his line as well. So it's like, okay, this is kind of odd for both of us, many generations apart, to have that. Go ahead and go forward. There's a lot of different tribes. There's a lot of places to find Native American information. So Ancestry will release different collections of different places. This specific one was for Jamestown. Well, they're talking about if your settlers came on the Mayflower at Jamestown, that their records and Ancestry now go further back because they have Native information. Ancestry DNA is a very good place to get information like that, but it also just gives you certain markers for certain tribes. It doesn't just nail down exactly to whom you might be related. Flip again. You can go to the U.S. Department of Interior Indian Affairs, at least you could the last couple of years, and there's tracing your American Indian ancestry that way. There's just fact sheets from the Bureau of Indian Affairs. How do you search for your things? There are Indian rolls where their names are listed. Yes?
About 35 years ago when I started in the genealogy, I sent for the photostat copies of my great-grandfather. My grandmother, we heard she was Indian. Anyway, his name was John Davis, and he was on the rolls of the census for the 5 civilized tribes around 1900.
Yeah.
and Cherokee. And he states that he's 116. He was born on the reservation, orphaned at 8, and grew up on the reservation. So that works out, I'm on 128th. Cherokee. So the thing that's kind of interesting is, I recently paid for a 23andMe DNA study.
Yes.
I have no Native American blood.
So,
I think he either was told a tale or he was telling a tale.
no, I think you could be, because when you start to look on YouTube and you watch some of the videos about how the DNA works, when the two, the father and the mother come together, you don't get all of the DNA from each of them. So your brothers and sisters will have some of your DNA, but not all of it. And if you looked at every family member in your generation, one or two of them might have wound up with the DNA that marks them to the tribe, but not everyone might have gotten it.
Ancestry is using what they call autosomal DNA, which is a lot different than mitochondrial DNA, which is much more accurate. So the autosomal DNA, you can go about 4 or 5 generations back and have close to 100% accuracy. But once you start getting beyond that, especially if there's been a lot of intermarriage, it gets really muddled the farther you go back with it. Ancestry is good for the first 4 or 5 generations, and then you really start to it can tell you general trends, but it's not good for pinpoint
That's
accuracy.
why I invested in 23andMe. It's more expensive and
Yeah.
more extensive. And it's only going back 3 generations. But, well, there is 1% that's unaccounted for.
Well, there you go. I've
But everything
seen,
else was confirmed by my research.
yeah. So I've seen, the results of the Ancestry DNA by looking at some of the videos and seeing what it looks like. And I also saw a different group, I don't know the company name, that another friend had done a while back. And it was like a giant map. And really in depth, all these different groups of people that she had a percentage of this and a percentage of that. And I don't know to the extent that they crossed over, because they looked so different, the different types of data that you got. It depended what you were looking for by going into your genealogy. I was looking to corroborate family stories. I didn't really want to find a cousin. I didn't really want a long lost brother. It's like, I was just, and I don't have children on whom to say, here's who you're related to. So for me, it was mostly curiosity. But depending what you're looking for, then that's the avenue you might use. The DNA genealogy testing is excellent for finding family members that you never knew you had. And that also widens your research as you do that. So I don't know, but it could have been some, 1/16 5 generations ago is not that much blood DNA to come forward. And it could be true, it could have been a story, who knows. This story I have from my Indian family, I got more of the scoop of what happened to my Indian great-great-grandmother from my aunt before she died. Can you forward it? So I'm envisioning the Indian on the right. And instead, after talking to my aunt, it's more like the Indian on the left. So go forward. So the story, turns out, from my aunt is that Uncle Billy Fisher was a Civil War vet. And he's getting a job, so he got a job for the railroads. And it's when they're building railroads across the U.S., and I don't know where, so that's problem number 1. I don't know where to base my research. I would have to go back and find Uncle Billy's record and all that. And there's going to be a military record for Billy Fisher at some point, and there's going to be birth certificates, and I just haven't tracked that yet. But he was buying up the property for the railroad, and he hit this Indian widow. So women didn't own property at this time period. So she's living on her family farm, but her husband has died. So her chances and ability to survive financially are not too good if she gives up this land, because then she's going to have some money, but no land, and I assume she had a family that she was dealing with, and no income. They must have been farming on this land. So she said no. And I'm gonna have to go and research the history of the railroads, because I don't know exactly where they were. And so the way that my great-great-grandfather, Billy Fisher, gets her to sell is by marrying her. And so I'm related to the children they had after she married Captain Bill. And they sold the property for a lot of money, and he relocated it somewhere else and made sure she was okay. So go on. So these black lines across the U.S. are all railroads. There's a lot of railroads. The descendants of Captain Billy lived in Ohio. So it's like, okay, I'll just start in Ohio and we'll work out. I found out that there's a railroad in Pennsylvania that was like the first railroad. So I thought, well, we'll just start with railroad history and work that direction. But there's going to be land records. There's going to be, railroad records. There's going to be all kinds of records I'll be able to find once I've got the right names, dates, all of that. But I just hit a wall with Ancestry where I couldn't get any further than where I was trying to go. My grandfather, Fisher, his father was a foundling. So I'm not all that sure where all these stories come from. Like, is Captain Billy an uncle? And I have to go back and do a little bit more research on that side of the family. If you have older people to talk to, that's the best. But as they age and die off, you lose that access. So there's another last family tree that I had found online that I thought was pretty.